like that moment before time like goes back to normal, Bazaar like tried to reach out their arm because they have a monster gift upgrade to this ability that lets them actually interact with illusions as if they were real. So they, I think knowing this, they went to try and like touch this child, this 2D paper doll child, but were probably a bit too late. And so when the growth stopped, I think Zeke, you probably just see Basar's like hand out, like seemingly reaching for one of the spikes.
Uh, do you do, don't do that, or you're gonna get impaled. Are you good? Are you okay?
What? Oh, yeah. No, I'm fine. Did you did you see that?
Uh, Barely, but not as much. What's going on?
There was this golden glittering. Did you not see it?
Uh, I Zeke did not see it, correct?
No.
I did not. Wait, did you say gold?
Golden. Yes.
Like uh, like the fake Goldie, right?
The I'm sorry, fake. Oh, oh, you must mean the false gold.
Oh, false gold. Yes.
Yes, yes. Although it didn't look quite as liquid as the false gold tends to be within the monsters.
Interesting. He's like, well, is there? I don't see a monster around. Is there one that we should be looking for?
Do you not have a local monster in this area?
Well, we've
One
got a
protecting
few.
the town?
Well, we've got a few, but one we've never seen. Well, I've never seen. Some of the old folks say that they have. I don't really believe them. Um, but we do. One of my favorite monsters, actually, tends to travel and reside in this area sometimes. The Capper and I.
Zeke. Again, this human sounding screech, bleeding that sounds similar, familiar rather, to you. And someone, I think Cap even like just like taps on your head and like points up to another, not even mountainside, like maybe a mile away or something like that. The giant form of a goat creature, one that you know, one that you have seen, one that has made friends with maybe most of the people here in the Fjordlands. Its one eye and its sort of snout screech up into the air.
That's so funny, Onslaught. Thanks for catching that. I got to figure that out. I hope you guys enjoyed that little taste of our Sandy Pug game produced actual play from Monster Care Squad. I don't know why that's the audio right now. We'll get it fixed soon. Thanks, Halo Hand, for all the rest of our audio. We'll see you soon as we get started. And we are live here on Plus One EXP's Roll for Content channel. My name is Tony Vicenda. I'm Chief Alchemist here at Plus One EXP, which is a weird little brand that multi-classes in tabletop game design, beard and skincare alchemy in the Bardic College of Content Creation. But typically on the final Friday of every single month, we sit down, me and my good buddy Jarrett from over at Exalted Funeral. We talk about the whispers of what's departed and the portents of what's to come over at Exalted Funeral. But this week we decided, you know what? Let's mix it up. Let's move Friday to a Monday. Not even the final Monday, the penultimate Monday of the month. For a funeral party like no others. Jarrett, how are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, Tony.
Awesome. Why don't you tell us a little bit about why we could not do this on Friday?
Well, and this is for anyone in the Madison, Wisconsin, not to be confused with Madison, Florida, or Madison, Louisiana. Tony says there's other
Madison Avenue.
I don't know. Not to be confused with anybody else. Madison, Wisconsin. Myself and our wholesale manager, Beckett Warren, are going up there tomorrow to attend ACD Games Day. ACD is one of our distribution partners, and they're super important because they get our books into brick and mortar stores, so that when you go into your LGS, friendly or otherwise, the only thing, you see more than just the big company, the big 2, 3, whatever, for hardcovers and stuff like that. You see cool stuff like Morgan, Forbidden Psalm, and Liberté and Mystic Punk. Sorry, I'm trying to talk and not turn around. You see all those cool books that come from our friends and from us and stuff like that. And what we're going to be doing, we get to meet with 200 plus retailers, and we're going to be talking to them about why people should carry zines in their stores. These aren't Exalted Funeral exclusives, but it did definitely work on things like Mothership, things like the upcoming ARC Ventures that'll be out this summer during our free RPG sale. Half-ass segue, sorry about that. And we're going to be talking to all these retailers and giving them some demos. And Beckett's going to be doing a seminar on something I didn't check. My bad. I'm worried, but I'm not worried. But I've been prepping up Riverbend because I'm going to be doing some demos of Riverbend. And so it's going to be kind of like it's a trade show. So kind of like you said earlier, Gamma. Except for the retailers that come to us and kind of like look around and mingle at all of our stuff, and we get a chance to razzle dazzle and say, hey, you should totally carry this in your store, you should carry this in your store, you should carry this in your store, you should carry this in your store. So that's why we couldn't do funeral party on Fridays. We decided to do it on Monday.
Awesome. And when you guys were kind of getting set up to start putting things in ACD and start working with them more, putting stuff in their monthly magazine goes out, what great games did you feature in that magazine as it went out to people?
As LoganWould-have-it.com, there is a little game called iToaster. Have you heard of it, Tony?
I've heard something about it. I heard it either just got or is about to get its second print run.
Yeah, it actually just went to print. For those not in the know, Tony made a game for us was it for summer release? Or
it was for summer release last year. Yeah, it was for summer sale last summer. Yeah,
it's been out for about a year. iToaster, a neat, cute little A6 booklet. Totally not based off of or inspired by any other IP. Certainly not the Brave Little Toaster or Brave Little Toaster 2. Brave Little Toaster Goes to College, or Brave Little Toaster 3, Brave Little Toaster Goes to Mars. None of those things influenced. Because that's the way it is. First you're a toaster, then you go to college, then you go to Mars. That's how it works. And so and then Mars College later.
Mars College later. I'm super excited about it. I love one of the reasons that Plus One continues to partner with EF and loves partnering with EF is not just because I love Jarrett. It's not just because of the huge paycheck. It's really because I love what EF does to help position smaller creators and zine weight RPGs to get into the hands of people, not just through their own store, but now through retail stuff. So I'm always super excited about all the things y'all have going on. I think this is a really cool thing that a lot of people don't know is part of the process. Like I remember when Mothership, when it had first come out, I went to my friendly local game store and was like, hey, y'all should get copies of this. It's going to be a really cool game. And they looked at it and they were like, this is really well designed. It's really well laid out. They loved indie games already. And they just had to like email Tuesday Night Games and be like, if we want to buy them, can we? And they were like, yeah, it's just like 50% off. Just message us what you want. We'll send you an invoice. But it was like this back and forth. How do we do this process, as opposed to knowing that there's a centralized place they can go to do that directly and get a whole bunch of games. So I think that's really, really great. Awesome. As always, we've got some great giveaways. We're going to summon an extratemporal ghost later. I'm going to open up that giveaway right now. Jarrett, tell people a little bit about what we're giving away today.
Look at what you just did to me. I'm thinking on my feet.
That's all right. We can do something else first and come back to that in a minute.
Actually, it's pretty small, but I grabbed a couple of extra copies. They're not Exalted Funeral, but I did grab a couple of extra copies for to give away of the Enzo Villa Heist for Cyborg, the little pamphlets that Christian and Johan did. So they're in the other room. Sorry, I'll
Awesome.
get them in a second. So yeah, I will just send those out and can probably throw in some stickers and some other cool, neat stuff like that. So.
Cool.
Did I dodge that bullet, Tony?
You dodged it. You did a good job. I mean, I don't know if it was bullet time, but it looked pretty good still, nevertheless. No, I super excited about that. Again, if you want to get into that, make sure you hit follow, and then you can type !FParty into the chat. Somebody said that my commands are always really weird. I don't know what they're talking about. We always use FParty here on the channel, and so that's awesome. Let's kind of dive into the meat of what we're doing here today. Let's take a look at what's on the hearse when we're quiet for a few seconds while great music by Halo Hand plays. At least hopefully great music by Halo Hand, because apparently it was weird audio from an actual player earlier. All right, so Jarrett, tell me a little bit about what's on its way to Exalted Funeral. What can people look forward to and start getting excited about?
So a quick kind of crowdfunding sort of loose slate. The Land of Heme coming soon to a crowdfunding platform near you. Abyss of Hallucinations, Volume 2 at Max Moon has reached out to us. I'm super stoked about doing that. We're trying to save Max's wrists. That's what I not so secretly call the campaign. We also have Crust coming up from Disaster Tourism and our friend Kirby.
By the way, Kirby also has a project launching on GameFound this week called The Dark. I don't know if you've had a chance to read it yet, Jarrett. I have not. I got to read it. I got to see the PDF preview of it too. It is very gorgeous, very good. Wretched and Alone game. Not through Exalted Funeral. There will probably be copies in stock at some point in the future, I'm sure. But Kirby's first direct crowdfunding project. So if you are able to support Disaster Tourism, I would love for you to hop out and do that. Oh, we've got some issues with the stream dropping in and out. I'm going to go ahead and hit record in case there's an issue on my end. And we're going to start recording. That way, if there's an issue, we can upload later. But I'm going to keep on trucking and hope everything's okay. I'm going to grab a link to The Dark from over on GameFound also to drop in. As always, the rest of the titles we're talking about, you can go over to EF. Check out as they're dropping. What else do we have coming up, though, Jarrett? I'm sorry, I jumped in and interrupted you.
So the big one that I did them in reverse order for the show notes. Free RPG Day. I'm working on the theme song for Free RPG Day. I promise. Right, Halo. If you're listening and you want to, or watching and you want to do the music, I'll do the vocals. That's it. So it's just going to be Free RPG Day. It's coming up July 15th. This year we're going to run sales and specials for the entire week, and number 3 in the thinly veiled television homage series from Anxiety Wizard and Jared Sinclair is being worked on right now. I don't want to spoil the concept too much, but it's a combo of the television influence and also a bit of a throwback to a publisher of yesteryear. It's just hilarious to me every time I think about it. Y'all see it. We've upped the quantities. Usually we just give out 100 to the first 100 people, 100 of those to the first 100 people who pop in. So we've upped it a little bit. We've got some cool patches, and stickers and shirts. We've got to celebratory sort of merch. We're going to do the same thing we always do with our free RPG. Is the first 25 copies of all of the new releases, the in-house EF exclusives that come out that day, will be free, and you'll have to go through the usual process of, the shopping wizards. They have their carts set up and ready to go and all that. And remember the rules, that the discounts don't apply until the sale's actually live. But Friday and today, I have been doing data entry and ordering for 27 new products.
Woo!
So some of them are parts of the series. Some of them are super duper stoked. We're going to be doing print runs of the Melsonian Arts Council's Undercroft, all the current issues from 1 to 14.
That's cool.
We're going to be doing some short limited runs of those stateside. I know, because it's a bit of a cost to get them from UK sometimes. So I've worked out a deal with Dan and Shui, and we're going to do those. So that's going to be super exciting. We've got the ARC ventures that were the digital stretch goals. We're going to be doing short print runs of those, so people can kind of get those in their hands. If you didn't back ARC and you don't have those, shame on you, but they're gorgeous. All the artists did amazing work. All the writers did amazing work. And just the design and layout that Bianca and Guy did for those, this phenomenal. Like, I was putting them all through Mixam today, and they're just gorgeous to look at.
I can't wait to see this.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. So yeah, a lot of stuff. So if anybody's like wondering how come Jared hasn't said anything in like a week or two, it's just because I'm head down. I'm getting all this stuff set up and sorted. To go along with that, we're also going to have EFCon online. I Know What You Rolled last summer, which again is not an homage to anything. It's whole cloth.
Totally new. Totally
came up with.
We
that.
just know that you rolled dice last summer, and we know what those dice said. Like,
Yeah.
We also know that you lied about them, and now that there's a spectral
absolutely.
entity haunting you, following you, stalking your every step.
Yeah.
Like we know that. And so that's the only reason why. We're very excited about that. And Jared, you and I are going to do something fun and cool for that specifically. And that is, we're going to do a little bit of like a pitch fest / workshop. We'll have more details to come, but this came up because you and I like +1 prints games, Exalted Funeral prints way more games. But both of us, both from like, for me, from both I pitch games regularly. I do a lot of marketing work. And I also get pitched to regularly. And you from the having to get pitched to regularly by people who have their games in different stages of preparation. I've talked a lot about like what is most helpful when you approach a publisher or a partner about wanting to get your game into print with them. So I'd love to hear from you for people who may want to come during EFCon and pitch to me and you. We're going to get a couple other publishers to sit. There'll be short pitches, like 5 minutes, and then we'll give you about 5 minutes of feedback. We'll have space for a few dozen people to do this throughout the course of the con. We'll have some blocks set up. But for people who are thinking about doing that, have a game they're like, I want to work with EF on, what are some good like key 3 or 4 points to know about pitching to EF if they're thinking about doing that?
Well, first thing is you need to study Tony's press kit list, which is like literally I see that thing mentioned like every day, as far as like moving product and pushing product and getting it out there into people's heads. It's a massively invaluable resource. Like I'm not only a member, but I'm also a client, right, or whatever. Like I use that when I'm doing back cover blurbs for products that I have been tasking myself with getting those out. Honestly, like, a 2 to 4 page like sample PDF, and then brass tacks information, page size, page count, color, black and white, desired binding, how far along in the process you are, what sort of stuff you're looking for, like a printing partnership, a Kickstarter partnership, something further, down the line, like we're a couple years out for larger crowdfunding projects and stuff like that. Like it's just the way of the world right now. So all that super exciting stuff. But yeah, we'll kind of go over that a little more in depth. And like you said, those like little 5-minute pitches would be just like super great fun, and you can kind of be like, yeah, cool, it's cool, you know, and all meant in the spirit of helping people, like,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah,
doing
and
stuff.
I think the big thing is, like, if you're somebody who feels really comfortable just like sending Jarrett, like, hey, I've been working on this, what do you think? Like, that's great. Like, reach out projects at Exalted Funeral. Reach out earlier rather than later is always good.
Yep.
But this will be a little bit more like, hey, we're a little bit further along, and it's just a place to give permission to, and specifically to get feedback, not just from EF, but from at least us and maybe a couple other publishers on hey, here's what we're seeing, here's what else we would want to see, here's a couple questions you might want to answer in order to get you ready to be able to send it to Jarrett for printing through EF or finding another publisher if it's a project that may not fit with what EF does or what another publisher does. Different publishers are good at different things, but most publishers have a fairly similar process. We just thought it'd be really helpful for people to have that option. Plus, I think it's just a fun thing. It's like going on Shark Tank, but for games. And so, you know, and so you're going to walk away with $1 million worth of game money.
I don't get his cultural references.
I don't know what a Shark Tank is. By the way, if you're just joining us, make sure you hit follow, type an exclamation point, FParty, in order to get entered into a chance for today's giveaways. And EF Con, I know what you rolled last summer, is July 15th through 17th, right, Jarrett?
Mm-hmm. Yep, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then we'll be putting up a call to arms for some folks who want to run games. I'm reaching out in the next week or so to some of our in-house creators and people we've done stuff with before. To set up running, you know, like, I guess featured games is probably not the best term, but as far as like some of our like most requested stuff, like, hey, could you get person to run X game? I'm going to see if I can get a person to run a short 2-hour session at their time available for 2 to 3 players and stuff like that. It's a fun thing, you know what I'm saying? The overall cost of the con is going to be fairly low. It's going to be like I don't want to quote prices yet because I hate doing that. Remember, Jarrett, don't quote prices and don't quote dates.
We will have things that are just publicly accessible through our channel, because our channel will function like the main stage in some ways. We are going to be using Gather though. So if you're in the con, it'll all be in one place. If you're not able to come, you'll be able to access some of the content just through the +1 channel. It'll be open and available to anybody. We'll have some scholarships also too for different parts of the world for people who aren't able to afford. We'll figure all that stuff out. We'll have a really inexpensive ticket for people who want full access, and for anybody who wants to just come and join us and play. So there's things. We'll probably have some enhanced ones that'll have like some copies of games and a couple packets and some maybe a shirt built in as part of the purchase price if you want the fuller experience. We may even have like an ultra premium package. It's like play a game with this creator or that creator or whatever. We might have some of those things. Keep an eye out. We'll have all that information coming next month for all this also. But if you want to come run your game, if you're an EF creator, this is a great chance to do it and come share your game with other folks. And if you've got a game in process that you're hoping to share with EF, we'll have some open game tables also too. So just come, have a good time. We're really looking forward to it. So yeah, and we went back and forth on Gather. So by Odin's Beard, that's really good to hear that people are into that. We had just really great feedback around how it was helpful people for session 0 last year. We're going to do some fun things with the virtual environment also too. We're really excited about it, but we'll have more information on pricing. Just know, no matter what your budget looks like, we're going to have a way for you to engage and be a part of the experience over the course of that weekend. So,
yeah.
Cool. Awesome.
Okay. Save the best announcement for last, which will segue into, well, will it? I did want to talk about a project that's near and dear that's taken a little bit longer than we all wanted it to, but I'm really super sick. And I probably mentioned it on the show before. There is a book that we published by Luke Gehring and Benito called Volume 2, Monsters, and a little A6 revisionary look at a classic bestiary. And then Luke was like, okay, I've got the next one. And it's going to be called and Treasure. Now, once again, and we'll probably go over this in the second half of the show, if by chance Luke Gehring's ghost shows up.
Because it's the weirdest thing. Every time we book somebody, they're not available.
Yeah,
And so we have to summon their ghosts from across space and
Right,
time in order
I
to come
know.
talk to us.
But as the ghost of Luke Gearing might mention, I have this thing with this particular acronym for this other particular game. So I am just asking all of you all to please, if you mentioned and treasure, to please say all 9 ands. Okay?
Cool.
Okay. It's sadly it's going to be here tomorrow when I'm traveling, but it's going to be also A6, 180 pages, spiral bound with clear acetate front and back covers. That's what happens when people are like, make a cool thing, and then nobody stops us from making a cool thing. I'm really, really, really hoping that it comes through and people really dig it. But maybe we should see if Luke's ghost is available and can.
Well,
like, tell us
before
how
we do
serious
that,
it is.
we do have one other thing we need to do. And that's because there's actually 2 things we need to do. One, we need to cue that up a little bit more. But the first one is we need to talk about the events. What's nearly and dearly departed from Exalted Funeral. Hold on for music. Hold for music. All right. What's nearly out of stock, and what is out of stock at the store?
The only thing that's out of stock currently is Forbidden Psalm at Dead Festival. It's because there was a little bit of a printing error. Reprints of that are coming in soon. But other than that, all of the EF exclusives, printing partnership program stuff, I have finally figured out how to manage inventory. I just have to look in Shopify and see like, oh, we're low on this, and then order it. So yay, I'm doing my job that I did for probably 30 years when I worked in restaurants, which was, order to a par. It's weird how that works with like, other jobs. I know.
Weird. Like explaining pars to people are always crazy to me. People are like, you want to sell out of everything. I was like, actually, there's a variance you want left over on your shelves because you want to know you didn't miss out on any sales. Just selling out is fine, but you actually want to just come right underneath selling out. You like want there to be like, oh, we sold 99% of this thing or 95% of whatever the thing is. That's actually how you know you maximize it. Either way, I mean, that aside, that's restaurant managing. Let's you're doing such a good job. Let's just slide into our eulogy. As we mentioned today, we are going to try to. We've done some scheduling in advance. We've worked across space and time to connect with this ghost slightly, just get on their schedule. But scheduling's always hard when you're dealing with folks who no longer experience the passage of time. But we're hoping in just a second that we can summon Luke Gearing. Final words were better luck next time. In the year of our Lord 2069 was crushed by his own ego. Jarrett, tell us a little bit about your experience with Luke before we see if we can summon his ghost.
He's the worst.
He's
the worst.
Maybe we should rethink this then.
Yeah, right. Luke's solid. I've been lucky enough to be Luke's editor on a bunch of projects and products in the past, in the present, and in the future. And just super good stuff. I mean, his work pretty much speaks for itself. So, awesome. And he's still the worst. I mean, maybe not.
Let's see if we can summon Luke's ghost. Are you there, Luke?
Oh, I mean, I heard Jarrett talking shit, so here we are. There you go.
I'm so glad you could come back and join us today. After I know that after the success of and that you went on to do a bunch of amazing things that you probably didn't really have time for us today, especially since Jarrett's talking bad about you. But when you exist in a non-temporal space outside of the conceit of reality, it's maybe a little
complicated. It's
fine.
It's okay.
We're so glad to have you. For people who may or may not have been familiar with your life and work, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
So I'm Luke. I almost always write adventures. I've done a couple systemy things, mostly just adventures for like OSR stuff, Troika, there's a few others which I can't remember if I'm allowed to talk about. I really should have checked if I could or not. But there's work here and there, kind of spread about everywhere, as well as a blog, and posting pictures of Clifford on Twitter. That's the other big thing I do.
Awesome.
Lots of pictures of Clifford.
It's a really good question to be like, hey, if you sign NDAs but we're summoning your future ghost, are they still bound by those at this point in time? I bet you nobody really thinks through those realities.
Yeah,
We'll
I
send that
bet
to
it's never come
legal.
up.
We'll email legal at exaltedfuneral.com and have them get right on that. That's awesome. We got a couple questions we ask every ghost before we just dive into the work. If you have questions, we're going to have space for that in just 1 second. Feel free to ask them as we go along, or wait till we get a little bit further down if you've got questions that you want to ask Luke about their life and work now or later. But Luke, what do they do with your remains when you passed?
I mean, obviously, again, you're dealing with the temporal interference here. I mean, being dead, I didn't get to see it, but I'm hoping fired out of a cannon. Preferably somewhere it made a really big mess as well.
If you could have your remains fired out of a cannon at anything to make a big mess, where would you have liked them to have been fired?
I mean, number 10 Downing Street's always a classic option, is it not? There's a couple of statues. Yeah. In Minecraft, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
When you say remains, do you mean like gobbets, or do you mean like we're gonna melt you down and like fashion you into possibly like missile weapons, or
whatever the vibe is? Really, right. Depends. I'm easy. I don't mind.
I think gobbets would be pretty fun.
Yeah, I feel like if you were crushed by your own ego, there's probably plenty of liquid left. Which once you got that liquid, you can work it however you want to, basically.
Yeah, you can do both. Fire me twice at the cannon. Once as a cannonball, once as chunks. It's fine.
So, what do you hope people said about you at your funeral since you weren't paying attention?
I mean, mostly nice stuff, but you do want a couple of people to like breathe a sigh of relief. Like, well, he won't be as annoying anymore. You want to found the spots that really piss him off. Just slightly aggravating all the time. That's the goal. Like a little stone in the bottom of your shoe.
That's the best. That's the best part of a eulogy ever. They were like a stone in the bottom of my shoe. What song did you want played as you were lowered, or as you were shot out of a cannon, I guess?
Well, specifically the cannon shooting, it obviously has to be Sex Pistols, Anarchy in the UK, obviously, if you're being shot out of a cannon at 10 Downing Street in Minecraft. Yeah, it's got to be, right?
You're the first one to ask for it, so I mean, like, I'm on stream, so I mean, I'm sure that's very reasonable. What's one game that somebody else made that you wanted to have shot out of the cannon with you?
So that's tough, right? Because if you've been fired out of a cannon, do I want to destroy like the last extant copy of a game I really don't fucking like, or do I want it to become one with my essence? I mean, if it's one with my essence, definitely Traveller. Obviously, I don't shut the fuck up about Traveller, as everyone knows. So yeah, classic Traveller.
Love it. What do you love about Traveller? I'm a big Traveller fan. I think people tremendously underestimate the impact that Traveller had on the indie scene. I don't think PBTA exists in the form it's in right now if Traveller doesn't exist.
No, I mean it's a big joke that I like to tell. It's like PBTA is just Traveller, it's just 2 dice roll over 8. Right. So like at first everyone was like, oh man, you can die in character creation, and that part's fun. But then you realize like, oh man, I can roll up everything. Like I think it's, considering it's like what 77 for the first edition, they'd kind of already nailed generators. Like I've not seen a generator that does a better job than classic Traveller in terms of like planet generators, stuff like that yet. I mean, it's an open challenge. I want someone to beat it. And I know a couple of people who would definitely come in close.
I'm very excited about the whole breed stuff that's coming out. You would know, being from the future, unless you're just not paying attention to anything.
I just don't want to give spoilers at that point.
Okay,
I don't want to give spoilers for you.
It's totally reasonable.
No, yeah, I say it's totally like, yeah, you make it. Here's the tools. You make the game with your table, and it kind of trusts you to do that, which is why I dig it so much. I think very inspiring for me personally.
Awesome. if we all end up in some sort of Valhalla-like afterlife, playing one RPG for all eternity, what do you hope the theme and core mechanic of that game are, and what's in your cup while you're playing it?
Man, that is a tough one. So I've always wanted to like fully appreciate D100 games, because in person I've always found them a bit naff. But I feel like if you've got Eternity, you can probably get it just right. Now there's games that, obviously something like Mothership is very, very good with it. It's just, for me, I've always wanted to be the best at running D100. So yeah, something like that. Theme wise, got to be sci-fi, infinite possibilities. You're never going to get bored.
Awesome.
I've just described Mothership at that point.
You do. It's just a Mothership hack for all eternity. It's just It's just the process of constantly hacking Mothership to perfection for all eternity.
Yeah.
Is that it?
And what's in my cup? I mean, if it's because I'm a big coffee guy. But the issue is you can't have too many cups because the caffeine. But if I'm in heaven, it's fine. I can drink as much as I want because there'll be decaf that's as good as normal caffeinated coffee.
Yeah. There we go.
Yeah, dose up.
This is the big wide open question. Like, what inspires you? Before you answer that, giving you a second to think about things that inspire you. Be as specific or as broad as you want. Watchers, if you have a question right now, this is a great time. Type it in the chat. Wherever you're watching, if you're watching later over on YouTube, type it in the comments down below. We'll see if we can get Living Luke to give you some attention at that point in time, since they weren't available right now. But Luke, what inspires you and the work that you do?
Like a lot of it is very much like physical space. So like I'm quite lucky in that I live somewhere I can go walk in the woods. It's like 5 minutes away, take the dog for a little walk, and that's like I find that really grounds me and reminds me what it's like to be in a space. And a lot of the work I'm doing is just trying to somehow transmit the sense of being in a space to the reader, to the players, kind of through the GM reading it, ideally. That, and I'm very much interested in kind of small little everyday reactions to like power. That sounds super abstract, but just like small little acts of defiance and stuff like that, and the small ways in which people can reclaim a bit of autonomy and do things their own way. Like that's sort of really important to me personally, and I like having that kind of be an element in games rather than just like, oh, you work for the king. It's like, no, you're helping the people who don't like the king and the sheriff that's like kind of the representative of power in the area or whatever, something like that,
Yeah, no, I love that. I'd love to unpack that a little more, because I was talking with Jason Morningstar 2 weeks ago, and one of my reflections, like looking at Jason's games, a lot of them are about about power dynamics, and a lot of it is like the intent to push people into action very quickly. So it's not, hey, we're going to slow burn into this and figure out what's going on. It's like, here is the forces of power that are immediately being brought to bear in this reality that are forcing you to respond, which if you're looking to engage people in quick action in a one shot, drive a lot of things, there's a lot of different ways that you could approach that. But you specifically said like you love to look at the small pieces of that, and I think that's wonderful. Could you talk a little bit more about what it is about like those small influences of power that really kind of drives you?
So like for the context, I'm super lucky that I have a really stable group of players. So like my average, because I'm usually the GM for the games that I'm playing in, but our average campaign length is like 1.5 to 2 years of like weekly sessions. So we kind of really get to spend a lot of time seeing how those tiny little actions play out over a long enough period of time. So it isn't just like a one shot and it's like, bam, all of this cool stuff happens. I mean, rather than a film, I get to do a TV series, right? So you get to see how those little elements kind of accumulate, and have a lot of callbacks have a lot of callbacks to stuff that happened before, and how it kind of loops around on itself and everything informs everything else. I think the reason I like that with power is because I also run very sort of sandboxy games. So one thing I've found from running a lot of sandbox games, it's really, really important and useful to have a power structure that exists for players to push back against. So like if you're just in the Wild West or whatever and there's no law, you just do whatever you want and you can outrun most consequences, so it kind of becomes boring. But if you have like a bounty system is the most simple way of doing it, where like slowly you're accumulating more and more attention on you, it means players have to suddenly be like, oh man, do we hit this bank? Is the payoff going to be enough? If you're still sticking with the Wild West example, is there going to cause too much heat? And you have that kind of constant slow pressure that's determining what they can and can't do. which is why I think those small acts are really interesting, because it's like, what can we get away with? And you might have the kind of big finale at the end of the campaign is like, yeah, we smash open the bank, we take the stuff and we leg it. But you've got loads of smaller steps to get there, and it kind of naturally begins to develop a crescendo as you get more and more attention. So you've got to do something big to make it worth taking on any risk at all at that point. Yeah, that's why I like those kind of small acts and having the players be the kind of engines of doing that. Because if they want to sit by and just let stuff happen, that's fine. It'll just be a boring game. And that's, nobody wants that, right? So they're gonna get involved. They're gonna do something.
Awesome, I love it. No, that's I'd love to maybe have you think if in the way that you write games, like that you design, because running games, playing in games, that's one thing. Designing games, are there ways that you kind of approach in your writing, creating space for that to happen? Because I think there's like, hey, here's in the one shot heavily directed game, there's the easy to bring big powers to bear. The slow burn of like how power builds over time requires a different set of toolkits in order to do that. And I do love that idea of crescendo. And also, the humblest of brags, I get to play every single week with a stable group, and campaigns last 1 year to 2 years and don't break down. I've never heard a brag like that until this moment. But I'd love to hear if there's a way that works into your design thing. But while you're thinking about that, 500 Pounds of Nothing, friend of the show, wants to know, how is Pepe?
Yeah, he's good. He's asleep down. That's my dog. He's asleep downstairs. He's chilling out. He's having a good time. He had a good walk today. Got to meet some other dogs, which is always nice for him. Awesome. Yeah.
Awesome. Also, Duvelman Dice is worried because their sense of reality is so fragile that they thought it was Friday already. Here's the deal. We mess with space and time and life and death on this channel on a regular basis. We brought Friday to Monday, and there's nothing anyone can do to stop us. Like, that's just it is Friday. It's also Monday. Also, also Luke is dead and alive.
What's going to happen if we do like 3 shows in a day? Oh, wait, we do that sometimes.
We do that sometimes. What if we ran a convention where it was just show after show after show?
Whoa.
No, I'm super excited. But yeah, look, any way that you can think of that you create space for that writing, or if you haven't done it, maybe a place you've seen it done well.
So I mean, like the obvious one there is like gradient descent, because obviously there is like a big AI that takes notice of your actions, but also it's a big AI. You're kind of like a bug crawling around inside of it. So unless you actually piss it off, it's not going to notice too much. But again, it kind of has that kind of slow creeping, ratcheting up of the tension, which obviously it's a horror game, so the tension's very literal in terms of like, oh man, we're taking stress damage, we're freaking out. But also that kind of like, without having what a lot of other games do, where they kind of directly kind of the machinery of the game operates on the narrative plane, if you know what I mean. So like, rather than actually ratcheting up the story elements, instead I like to work by having it so like the actual consequences of the reality are changing rather than a kind of narrative level. So like, as you do more and more stuff to piss off the AI, the responses become harsher and harsher, and you get more and more opportunities to piss it off. So it kind of is that kind of omnipresent force that's just there, and you know it's there. And what you do about that is up to you as players. That one's interesting as well, because you're also kind of caught between two sides, because there's also, or effectively, the space cops who occasionally kick in the door and try and shoot people who they think are androids, which is everyone. But that again, like, you're kind of caught between two different, very much, you are the smallest kind of group in that scenario, where these dudes are like hardcore, they got like loads of guns and shit, and then these horrifying robots who serve a like omniscient AI. It's like, well, damn, and we're in the middle. Because you can kind of do that as well, where it's like in both ways. But you can also do stuff where you play them off against each other, and that's part of that kind of small resistance. And it's like the judo throw thing, where you're kind of using somebody's weight against them, which I think is super fun and really interesting as a way of playing, because it means you have to consider stuff outside of just your characters. You know, like you got to be like, well, what exists in the world that we can use, not just materially but politically, which I think is interesting and gives some pretty good gameplay.
I've got a follow-up question about that, but I want to give my good friend Jarrett a question. You got a chance. Jarrett, you got any questions?
What's less of a question, more of reinforcing what Lou was saying, like as the build of power. As the person who gets to see the majority of Luke's manuscripts before most everybody else, like literally, like it's one of the most fun things about my job is getting to see everyone's like early unpolished work. And it's organic. It actually is. It builds much like a good television show, much like a good serial. It's all there in order till like it's I don't know. I think you just do it. Right.
Yeah.
I don't know if you think about it because I've asked you, like, when you and I have been in convos and stuff like that in our weekly catch-ups and stuff, I've just been like, how did you get here? You're just like, I don't know, I just start doing it.
Like, I'm probably more non-fiction than fiction at the moment, so for me a lot of it is, rather than being like, okay, here's the narrative arc that I want to happen, what elements need to exist to make that happen.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense when you put it that way.
One of those really annoying pieces of advice. How do you get ideas? Like, you just write what's in the room. You just write what's there. Like, don't think about it. Just write what's there, which is useless advice, but is also the most honest advice I can give. Frustratingly, yeah, like, it's just you write the thing that's there, and it will build on itself and imply things and have consequences.
Awesome. I hope that was a great conversation for the two of you, because we had a lot of blips happen on my end where y'all stalled out, but it sounded like your conversation was smooth and consistent.
Yeah.
I don't know that for our audience it was, but I hope it was really rewarding for the two of y'all.
It's good. It was good. It was to sum it up. It was Luke's magic, and he just he shuts gold. It's fine.
Yeah,
it happens. It was he kind of broke down, like, it's like a reverse situation of just writing what's there and what you had. Stella says the audio's not coming through. No audio.
That's funny. I'm getting plenty of audio levels here. Let's do some things. Let's do some stuff.
Damn. Okay.
It's okay.
Can you hear us now? No. Can you hear us now? Oh, great. Oh, great. Oh, great.